Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're having a good day. All right, so last time we talked about what to look for when you're choosing a bank that you want to do business with. All right, so today I want to talk about the difference between banks and credit unions. Now, there's many more different types of financial institutions like online banks, state banks, community banks, but I want to talk about credit unions and banks because I think they best illustrate the different mentalities financial institutions have and how profit motive can change the way that they do their business. All right, let's start with banks. Now, I just want to say this. Despite any of my biases, I don't think banks are bad or evil or anything like that. They just have a corporate obligation to amass as much money as they can. Now, let me expand on that. Big banks, the ones that you all know the names of, they are publicly traded on the stock market. All right, and people invest in that company. They're called shareholders. So banks have an obligation to make those shareholders as much money as possible. In order to do that, in order to increase the value of their company, they need to make money as much as they possibly can. That means the more fees they charge, their company value goes up. The more interest they make on their loans, their value goes up. Every one of their people that are using their debit cards or credit cards, their value goes up. So when their value goes up, the share price goes up, the investors make money, they're doing their jobs. It's not bad, it's not evil, that's just what they're there to do. So let's just remember this. They are obligated to make as much money as they can for the investors who invested in their company. That's it. Now, that doesn't mean that the products or services that they offer are bad. It just shows you that ultimately they need to make as much money as they can, and profit motive is their driving force. Now, because of this, it normally means that banks aren't the best when it comes to fees and interest rates. However, when it comes to accessibility and convenience, big banks reign supreme. If I asked one of you guys to go find a big bank around your city, you would have no problems locating one. I mean, they are everywhere, and everyone knows who they are. And consequently, they are the financial giants. I just read an article that said the top 5 major banks own half of the financial industry. I mean, think about it. That is crazy. 5 banks own half of all the financial industries. And think about how many hundreds, thousands of banks and credit unions there are. These top 5 own half. Now let's talk about credit unions. And let me say this for the sake of transparency. I work for a credit union. I've worked at one for the past 8 years. And in that time, I've learned so much about the financial industry, and I know about the distrust and lack of faith that people have when it comes to that. And it's actually why I started this channel, to help educate people, to let people understand what's going on and they can better themselves so they don't have to distrust their banks or their credit unions or wherever they decide to bank with. We can help educate people on how to do things the right way. So I hope that doesn't cause you to lose faith in what I'm saying or distrust me. I just felt it's something that I should be clear on. All right, on to credit unions. Unlike major banks, credit unions are not for-profit organizations, and they have a board of directors that listen to their members to help steer the credit union's path. All right, notice that I said not for profit. That's not a nonprofit organization. It just means that their sole purpose is not to make as much money as they can. Well, that's not true. They probably do. But what they want to do with the money that they make is put that back into the community. Give it back to the members. That's why credit unions' fees and interest rates are normally much more favorable than the banks. They want to give that back to the members. It's not to say that credit unions don't charge fees and that everyone that works there is an angel, but it normally means that their goal is to benefit their community and their members, which is something that's great. Now, the downside to credit unions is that they are small, like really, really small compared to major banks. They're not as technologically advanced. They don't have locations on every street corner. I doubt you know a tenth of all the credit unions that are in your state. They don't have all the bells and whistles that big banks have. They just don't have the resources that big banks do. You know, if you're just an everyday person, you work a job, you need somewhere to put your money, and you want that financial institution to do right by you, then a credit union is a great place to go, and they can absolutely help you out. Now, this is a very small portion of the difference between banks and credit unions, but in my opinion, it's the biggest and most significant difference that they have. I truly believe that both serve their purpose, and there's certain people that should be using big banks, and there's other places that should be using smaller banks or credit unions. I will say this with complete bias. I do believe that most individuals who have basic banking needs should be at a credit union. I think the underlying principles of a credit union better benefit those people. I can't tell you how many times someone's come over to my credit union because they're so sick and tired of their bank screwing them over, and this happened a lot back in 2008 during that economic collapse. Now, when people come up and ask me, hey, what's the difference between banks and credit unions? I say this, and maybe it's unfair, but to me, it's true. Think back in 2008. You know, the economy's collapsed, financial institutions are in trouble, it's on the news, everyone's getting crazy bonuses, everything's bad's happening, the bailouts. It's just a bad time for the financial industry. Most people do remember that, and I asked them how many of those companies on TV that were in the bad spotlight were banks. How many of them were credit unions? That's the difference right there. Now, is that a little sensationalized? Yeah. But is it true? Yeah. I mean, think about it. I don't remember seeing a single credit union in trouble. I saw a lot of big banks in trouble, and I saw a lot of people dissatisfied with banks, and I saw Occupy Wall Street happen. That was because they distrusted these big, huge mega corporations that are just profit driven and don't really care about you or me. We're just an account number. That's all it is. I don't want to be just an account number. I want to be someone that is treated with respect, and I'm given the services that I need, and I'm being helped out by my financial institution. All right, you vote with your dollar. Everywhere that you bank with, they're getting your vote. And if you don't like what they're doing, but you stay with them, how are they ever going to change anything? Because you're willing to put up with the bad things that they're doing. And I promise you this, if credit unions started doing a whole lot of bad things, people are going to leave them too. No one's perfect. But for right now, and for what I've seen, I can safely say that I think that most people are better served by being at a credit union. And the moment that changes, I'm leaving too. Now, we're pretty much at the end of this video, but I just want to say, I kind of set up these first 3 videos as like the philosophical reasons of why we're with banks, what they stand for, and how we should look at the relationship that we have with banks. Now that we've got that set up, and hopefully you're with a bank that you trust and you want to give business to, I want to start going over the specifics of what financial institutions can do for you, or what they may be doing for you that's not kind of great for you. Now we're going to get into interests, loans, credit scores, investment, banking practices, all the stuff that I think is really going to impact you on a day-to-day basis. So stay tuned. Hope you guys have a great day. Thanks again. Take care. Hey guys, thanks again for watching this video. I hope you learned something new from it and you were able to strengthen your financial position. I'm going to keep coming out with more videos, so please stay tuned, but go ahead and like, subscribe, comment, and have a good day.